In every room, there's always someone who truly holds the power, and here's the secret. It's rarely the one who talks the most or the one who shouts the loudest. Real power often belongs to the one who says nothing, yet somehow controls everything. Think about that. Power doesn't always walk in and announce itself. Sometimes it slips in, quietly sits, calmly observes, and before you even realize it's there, it is already won. In today's world where noise dominates, people rush to post, argue, and prove themselves. The advantage doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to those who master silence timing and psychological distance. The real strategist doesn't need to fight. He doesn't need to raise his voice. He simply allows others to expose themselves. And let's be clear, this isn't manipulation. This is about something much deeper: self-mastery, emotional intelligence, and absolute control over your own mind. In this video on Stoicism Breath, you're going to learn the first of 7 unbreakable rules of dominance. Stoic principles transformed into practical psychological strategies you can use in business relationships and everyday life. Let's begin with one of the most overlooked powers, the art of staying calm. Why is it that the calmest person in the room often ends up with the most control? Because when chaos erupts, when tempers flare, when emotions spiral, the one who stays centered becomes the anchor everyone else gravitates toward. Not because of fear, but because of respect, because of curiosity, because deep down people admire the one who isn't controlled by the storm. Calmness is not weakness. It is command over your nervous system. It's emotional intelligence in action. In a world obsessed with reaction, where every insult, every provocation, every dramatic headline demands an instant response, calmness becomes a weapon of psychological dominance. Ask yourself this: why do most people lose the game before it even begins? The answer is simple: because they react. They walk into a conversation already tense, already triggered. Someone says something offensive, they explode. Someone makes a passive-aggressive comment, they bite back instantly. And in doing so, they're not controlling the situation, they're being controlled by it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned us about this centuries ago. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If someone can push a button and make you angry, you are not in control, you're programmable. And here's the twist: manipulators know this. People who want to dominate you are always testing for those buttons. They watch how fast you defend yourself. They pay attention to how easily you get offended. They notice when your expression changes as soon as they mention something you're insecure about. Every visible emotional reaction you give away is like playing poker with your cards face up. So let's get real. Calm is not natural. It's trained. It must be forged, repeated, hardened through discipline. You don't just magically stay calm when your ego is under attack. You prepare for it. You practice detachment. You condition your breathing. You visualize the moment before it happens and decide in advance, who will I be when this moment comes? Calmness is more than just keeping your cool. It's a performance enhancer. It sharpens your vision. It helps you read the room. It buys you time to notice what everyone else is missing in their emotional storm. And here's where many people get it wrong. They think calmness is passive, that it's indifference, that if you don't clap back on social media, if you don't interrupt, if you don't fight back instantly, you're weak. Let them believe that. Let them mistake your restraint for passivity. That illusion becomes your camouflage. Stillness is power, silence is tension, restraint is strength. And here's the truth: real restraint terrifies the insecure, because when you're calm, they can't read you. They don't know what you're thinking, they don't know how much you know, and people fear what they cannot read. That's where your advantage begins: in negotiations, in relationships, in conflict. The one who controls their tone, their timing, their tension, controls the game. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine 2 executives pitching a high-stakes partnership. One is loud, animated, selling hard. He's throwing in jokes, pressure, endless energy. The other, he's sitting still, watching, occasionally asking precise, cutting questions. 10 minutes in, the loud one starts to unravel, rambling, overselling, grasping at straws. The calm one leans forward, waits for the perfect pause, and drops a single line. "You've given me a lot of enthusiasm, but very little data." Boom. Silence. the game is over. That's calm power. It doesn't need volume, it doesn't beg for attention, it waits, and then strikes with precision. So here's the question I'll leave you with today when the storm comes. When the room is full of noise, tension, and chaos, will you be the one swept away by it? Or will you be the calm center everyone else can't help but orbit around? Because in the end, true power doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It doesn't rush. True power is calm, precise, and undeniable. And once you master that, you'll never look at influence the same way again. That moment of silence after a single precise statement, that's not weakness. That's calm power. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't beg for attention. It waits, then strikes at exactly the right time. And here's the truth: if you want to command a room without saying much, you need daily rituals that strengthen your emotional control brick by brick until your calm becomes unshakable. Think of it as building your inner fortress. Let's break it down. First, begin with morning silence. Don't touch your phone for the first 30 minutes after waking. Give your mind a chance to settle. Learn to listen before reacting. Second practice, the pause rule. Anytime someone says something triggering, pause, count to 3 before you respond, or don't respond at all. That pause shifts the balance of power. Third, use reflective journaling every night. Ask yourself, when today did I lose my calm? What triggered me? Naming it strips its power away. Fourth, embrace cold exposure. Yes, cold showers or ice baths. Not for a social media stunt, but as training for your nervous system. If you can stay calm under physical stress, you'll stay calm under emotional stress. And finally, control your breathing. Box breathing: inhale 4 seconds, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. This technique resets your mind during pressure and keeps you steady when others lose control. Why does this matter? Because when you stay calm, you don't just survive the storm, you control its tempo. While others burn themselves out trying to dominate through noise, you dominate through presence. You don't need to raise your voice when your aura already commands the room. Calmness is rare, and anything rare becomes valuable. Be the still eye of the storm. Let the chaos swirl around you, not inside you. Because the man who stays calm doesn't just endure the battle, he owns the battlefield. If you truly want to outsmart others, don't fight them. Observe them. Let them speak first. Let them reveal their mindset, their fears, their insecurities, while you remain unreadable. In any game, business relationships, influence, the one who talks first shows their hand. The Stoics knew this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Silence isn't emptiness, it's strategy. Strategic listening is more than just staying quiet. It means listening with intent. Listening not to reply, but to extract information. Because when people talk, they can't help but leak clues through their tone, their rhythm, their choice of words. And when you're calm and centered, you catch what others miss. You learn more by saying less. That's not passivity, that's psychological warfare disguised as humility. Here's the paradox: people want to impress those they sense are stronger than them. If you carry yourself with quiet confidence, not arrogance, but true inner power, they'll try to prove themselves to you. And in doing so, they over-explain, they overshare, they hand you the keys to their insecurities. You don't interrogate them, you don't pressure them, you simply let silence do the heavy lifting. Because insecure people fear silence. They rush to fill it with words, and those words betray them. Let me give you a real-world example. Picture yourself in a negotiation. Instead of jumping in with your offer, you simply ask, "Tell me what you're looking for." Then you sit back and listen. They'll likely keep talking, trying to sound confident. But as they talk, they reveal their true priorities. They expose the concessions they fear most. They even hint at what they don't want, which hands you your strategy. Suddenly you know the terrain while they know almost nothing about you. That's not luck, that's leverage. And leverage always favors the patient. Remember this: a sharp accusation can trigger defenses, but a simple, well-placed question, it disarms, it opens the door. And when you combine silence, calm, and the art of asking, you gain something far more powerful than attention. You gain control. This is the discipline of Stoic calm. This is how you master yourself, outlast the noise, and quietly take command of any room. Welcome to Stoicism Breath. Try this instead of challenging someone directly. Simply ask, what makes you say that? Or why do you think that matters? Or even, how did you come to that conclusion? These aren't attacks, they're mirrors. And most people aren't ready to see their own reflection. If someone is lying, manipulating, or hiding something, these calm and innocent questions unravel them. They trip over their own narrative, reveal inconsistencies, start sweating, rambling, while you sit there composed, watching it all unfold. But here's the key. None of this works if your own face betrays you. If your eyebrows shoot up every time you're surprised, if your tone sharpens when you're offended, if your posture shifts the moment someone touches your ego, you've already lost the advantage. That's why the Stoics trained a poker face long before the term even existed. Practice neutrality. In every conversation, keep a relaxed jaw. Respond slowly. Let silence be your power. Speak with intention, like someone who has nothing to prove. This isn't being fake. This is self-mastery. And here's a phrase more powerful than you might think: I don't know. What do you think? In psychological dominance, those words are a hidden weapon. Why? Because they make people drop their guard. They assume you're not a threat. They keep talking, revealing, exposing while you remain in complete control. Your advantage is invisible, and that's exactly where it should stay. The biggest mistake people make when they feel confident is showing it too early. The temptation is strong. You want to flex your knowledge, correct others, win small arguments, but doing that reveals your level. Instead, keep them guessing. Why isn't she reacting? What's he really thinking? Does he know something I don't? That uncertainty breeds caution. It forces respect. And that's how you dominate without ever raising your voice. Think about this: in a world addicted to being heard, be the one who listens. Let others fall in love with their own voice while you fall in love with information. Because when the moment comes to act, you won't need noise. You'll already know exactly where to strike and how hard. You can't outfight someone who knows your every move, but you can always outmaneuver someone too eager to show you theirs. That's how the quiet win. That's how the calm conquer. That's how the wise dominate. True power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for validation. It simply exists, steady, silent, undeniable. The greatest leaders don't need to say, "Follow me." People just do. That's your next advantage: to shape outcomes without forcing them, to influence minds without demanding credit, to lead without ever showing your hand. Influence is always stronger than control. The insecure crave control. They micromanage. They dominate with volume. They try to own people. But what do they get in return? Resistance, rebellion, fragility. The powerful, on the other hand, influence. They inspire direction without commands. They plant ideas instead of issuing orders. They ask questions instead of making demands. They listen instead of performing. That is psychological leadership, and it is far more effective than brute control. Be the invisible hand that shapes the room. When you walk in with presence, people adjust. They sit straighter. They speak more carefully. Not because you demanded anything, but because your energy demanded enough. This is the essence of quiet dominance. You don't need the spotlight. You command respect. How? Through composure in your posture, through calm, steady eye contact that isn't confrontational, through words that are slow, intentional, surgical. This isn't about pretending to be stoic. It's about becoming someone who doesn't flinch at every disturbance, someone with nothing to prove. And it's that unshakable certainty, not volume, not aggression, that makes people follow your lead, often without even realizing it. Let them think it was their idea. This is one of the most advanced strategies in human interaction, allowing others to believe they came up with the solution. It requires finesse, emotional intelligence, and patience, but it works far better than any argument you could ever win. Instead of saying you should do it this way, you ask, have you considered this angle? Instead of declaring my way is better, you suggest, what would happen if we tried this different approach? By doing this, you give their ego room to breathe. You let them own the conclusion. And at the end of the day, if the outcome moves in your favor, does it really matter who gets the credit? This is how empires are built, not through shouting, but through subtle influence. Here's the principle. Control the frame, not the fight. Smart people argue about facts, but wiser people control the frame of the conversation. If you try to win by proving you're right, you've already stepped into their battlefield. Instead, shift the premise itself. Guide the direction, don't get lost in the details. For example, imagine someone criticizes your idea. Instead of defending yourself, you respond. That's an interesting perspective, but I'm more focused on the long-term impact than immediate results. Just like that, the context is now on your terms, not theirs. They came for a fight. You gave them elegance. That's leadership without force. And this is where Stoicism becomes a superpower detaching from the outcome. You don't need to win every skirmish. You prefer to win the war. When you detach emotionally, you gain psychological control. You're not desperate to convince. You're not afraid to walk away. You're not rattled if your idea is ignored because you know it will resurface when the time is right. This freedom gives you clarity. You flow instead of forcing. You guide instead of grabbing. Meanwhile, those frantic to win small arguments exhaust themselves. You conserve energy and claim the long game. Look at Marcus Aurelius. He ruled one of the greatest empires in history, yet he didn't bark orders or manipulate through threats. He led with dignity, reason, and example. When his generals failed, he didn't humiliate them. He asked questions. He listened. He adapted. Because he understood a true leader never needs to flex. Results speak louder than ego ever could, and you can apply the same today. When someone opposes you, don't lash back. Ask for their perspective. Let them speak fully. Thank them for their honesty. Then subtly guide the direction. Once emotion lowers, reason takes the throne, and when reason leads you, win quietly. Here's the truth: those who constantly need to prove they're right have already lost. But those who quietly guide with clarity and presence, they own both the respect and the outcome. The most dangerous piece on the chessboard isn't the one that moves the fastest, it's the one no one sees coming. Be that piece. Lead silently, influence strategically, outsmart without ever showing your hand. History proves this again and again. Empires collapse because they were built on speed, ego, and impatience. Legends endure because they were forged in patience, built with clarity, and strengthened through storms. That's how the wise outsmart the world. They play the long game. But here's the problem: most people today are addicted to the now. Look around, everyone is rushing. Rushing to get rich, rushing to be noticed, rushing to win today. And what happens? They burn out. They chase noise. They sacrifice long-term greatness for short-term dopamine. It's like trying to win a game of chess by thinking only one move ahead. You might take a piece, but you'll lose the board. The Stoic advantage is different. Think in decades, not days. As Epictetus said, don't aim to seem wise, aim to become it. You don't need to impress anyone right now. You need to become someone undeniable later. That means skipping the easy applause, resisting the temptation for quick wins, and instead investing in what lasts. Because greatness isn't built in moments of noise, it's built in silence, in patience, in the discipline of those who can wait while others burn out. You endure the boring disciplines. You build in silence while others broadcast every small achievement. Because the truth is, the rewards of the long game are exponential. When others collapse from sprinting, you're still moving, calm, steady, unstoppable. Take this simple example, the quick win trap. Imagine you're in a debate. Your opponent throws a cheap insult. You could fire back with something clever, win a laugh from the crowd, maybe even feel your ego swell for a moment. But in reality, you've already lost something far more important: your control. Because now the conversation isn't about principle, it's about pride. The long game move. You pause, you smile, and you say nothing. That silence carries more weight than any comeback could. In that moment, you didn't just win the argument, you won the frame. You positioned yourself as the higher presence, the one who doesn't need to fight back because you're not threatened. And that victory echoes long after the noise fades away. This is the compound effect of strategic silence. Think of every decision you make like a drop of water. Alone it seems insignificant. But over time, those drops form an ocean. That's what delayed gratification does. It terrifies people who are addicted to quick fixes. While they're chasing applause, you're building leverage. While they're chasing followers, you're building influence. While they're chasing revenge, you're building peace. In the end, the one who waits without withering always outlasts the one desperate to win right now. When you master patience, you master power. Most people act on impulse. They say the first thing that comes to mind. They respond to every provocation. They leap at the first opportunity even if it leads nowhere. But you're built differently. You wait. You listen longer than they expect. You observe longer than they can handle. You prepare longer than anyone thinks is necessary. And when you finally act, it's decisive. It's final. It's dominant. Because you weren't reacting, you were calculating. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, understood this well. In his private journal, he wrote, "A cucumber is bitter, then throw it away. There are brambles in the path, then go around. That is enough." In other words, don't demand the world conform to your expectations. Don't let temporary discomfort knock you off course. The Stoic leader knows life is long, ego is impatient. Choose life, not ego. That's the mindset of someone who plays for legacy, not likes. And yes, people will mock your discipline. They'll call you boring, too serious, too calm. But while they're distracted by noise, you're collecting compound interest in knowledge and strength and self-control. And when it's time to act, you won't need noise. You'll simply execute. By the time they notice, it's already too late for them to catch up. That's the cruel poetry of the long game. The same people who laughed at your patience will be the ones begging for your guidance. Here's the final truth: short-term thinkers want to win the room. Long-term thinkers build the entire building. Don't trade depth for speed. Don't trade endurance for ego. Don't trade clarity for applause. Because the one who plays the long game wins without rushing influences, without forcing, and dominates without even trying. Let others chase the moment. You are chasing mastery. Real power doesn't come from aggression. It comes from composure, from being the calmest one in the room while everyone else is busy reacting. And the truth is brutal, but clear: the person who controls their emotions controls the environment, whether it's in business, in love, in arguments, or in life. The most powerful person is never the loudest. It's the one who doesn't flinch, the one whose calm unsettles everyone else. Emotion can be your greatest ally or your greatest weakness, because you are not your emotions. But if you don't master them, they will own you. And that is how most people lose, not from lack of intelligence, but from lack of emotional discipline. The narcissist's playground is your emotional triggers. And if you don't guard them, you hand over the remote control to your inner peace. That's the moment you stop being in charge. And that's the exact moment you've already lost. Narcissists, toxic people, they thrive on your emotional reactions. They push your buttons, poke at your insecurities, twist half-truths, and stir outrage. Why? Because every reaction you give them is leverage. The more predictable your emotions, the easier it is for them to control your decisions. They don't have to be smarter than you, they just need you to self-destruct. But here's the good news. The moment you become unshakable, they lose the game completely. The Stoic response is simple: observe, don't absorb. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." That's Stoic clarity. You don't have to absorb every insult. You don't have to internalize every rude comment. You don't have to step into every storm. Instead, you observe it, label it, and let it pass. You train your mind to respond, not to react. Because when you react, you're under their control. But when you respond, you are the one in command. Picture this: you're in a heated meeting and someone challenges your idea in front of everyone. You feel the heat rising in your chest. The average person snaps back, raises their voice, defends themselves aggressively. But the strategist, they pause, they take a breath. Then they respond in a slow, steady tone, not to suppress anger, but to project control. In that moment, the entire room shifts. People forget the challenge itself, but they remember how you handled it. That memory becomes your edge. Emotional control isn't just admirable, it's power. In high-performance environments, whether it's the military elite, sports, or high-stakes negotiations, One principle is universal: he who stays calm wins. Why? Because emotions cloud judgment. Fear shrinks opportunity. Pride blinds reason. But when you're emotionally centered, you see what others miss. You sense weakness before it shows. You anticipate conflict before it explodes. And most importantly, you become impossible to manipulate. Let me share a story. A general and his troops were suddenly ambushed. Chaos erupted, panic, shouting, confusion. But the general, he sat quietly boiling tea. His officers shouted, "We're under attack." He calmly replied, "I make better decisions with a clear mind and warm hands." Later, he led his men to a flawless counterattack. Why? Because he waited for the storm inside to pass before facing the storm outside. That wasn't detachment. That was domination through emotional regulation. And that is every manipulator's nightmare: you stay calm. Some people provoke you not because they care, but because your reaction feeds their ego. They insult you, you lash back, they smile, you've just danced to their tune. But when you don't react, when you hold eye contact, breathe steadily, and remain calm, they feel powerless, because your silence says, "You don't control me, not anymore." That's how you reclaim your peace, your authority, your space. So how do you master this in real time? Here are 5 practical steps. 1. Label it. Say to yourself, "This is anger, this is fear, this is ego." Naming it separates you from it. 2. Delay your response. Always insert time before you act. Even 10 seconds can change the outcome. 3. Control your breath. Slow, steady breathing resets your nervous system. Slow breath equals a calm mind. 4. Shift perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 days, 5 months, 5 years? Most of the time it won't. 5. Speak low and slow. Never raise your voice. The most dangerous minds don't shout, they whisper. Final thought: emotional control is not weakness, it is superiority. It's not about being numb, it's about being untouchable. Because in every setting, whether in business relationships or life, the one who masters their emotions masters the environment. Don't confuse stillness with softness. The Stoic who doesn't scream back isn't afraid they're simply too powerful to be provoked. When others are enslaved by their emotions, you become a fortress, not cold but composed, not numb but wise, not reactive but responsive. Because in every arena, from the boardroom to the battlefield, the winner is not the one who feels the most, but the one who turns emotion into fuel instead of a leash. Let others rage, let them spiral, let them burn themselves out, chasing dominance through noise. You, on the other hand, win in silence. Because the calmest person in the room always ends up in control. You don't need to announce your plans. You don't need to explain every move. You don't need applause for progress no one sees. Why? Because the most dangerous power is the one they never saw coming. In a world obsessed with showing off, your silence becomes your strategy. Your invisibility becomes your weapon. Remember, visibility is a double-edged sword. The moment you broadcast every step, you invite envy, criticism, and sabotage. The moment you speak too soon, you awaken resistance before you even have the strength to face it. The Stoics knew this well. Work in silence, let success be your noise. Marcus Aurelius himself understood that the most powerful transformations don't happen on a stage. They happen in the shadows. They happen when you step away from distractions, from shallow praise, from people who don't deserve to know your blueprint. Because when you are invisible, you are untouchable. And here's the most underrated advantage in any game of power: the element of surprise. Whether in chess, in business, in politics, or in relationships, people can't defend against what they don't see coming. When you stay silent about your growth, your ambitions, your next move, you deny your opponents the chance to block you. By the time they realize what you've become, it's already too late. That's the difference between amateurs and true operators. Amateurs perform. Professionals prepare quietly. Real growth isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with likes, followers, or instant recognition. Growth happens in the gray zone, a place of solitude, sacrifice, and silence. a place where nobody claps, nobody sees, and nobody understands. But that's exactly where your edge is forged. While others are busy competing for attention in the spotlight, you're building weapons in the basement. And when you finally emerge, it's too late for them to react. Picture this: a company where everyone is busy proving themselves, talking, posturing, showing off. And then there's you, quiet, observing, building skills in silence, studying the system, the power structures, the weaknesses. You don't beg for recognition. You don't reveal your ambition. And then one day when the opportunity is right, you strike not emotionally, not impulsively, but with surgical precision. And everyone looks around and asks, where did this come from? That's the point. They were looking in the wrong direction. All along, because you were playing the long game in silence. Your silence will always confuse the weak. They crave validation. They panic when they aren't seen. But your silence is not weakness, it's discipline. It means you're not here to impress. You're here to execute. Every day you keep your moves to yourself, you sharpen your blade. Every day you resist the urge to overshare, you strengthen your focus. Until you become the ghost in the game, unpredictable, unstoppable, unseen. This is modern Stoicism, strategic invisibility. The Stoic doesn't parade his strength. He doesn't crave being liked, understood, or acknowledged. He knows a timeless truth: the more you say, the more you give away. The more you show, the more they can aim at. Modern Stoicism isn't just about calm, it's about camouflage. And in that camouflage lies your greatest advantage. It's about learning to operate without ego, to master yourself in secret, to become so dangerous that you never need to prove it. That's the Stoic way. Here's the tactic: leave no clues. Let's get practical. How do you become invisible in a world that craves attention? First, keep your goals private. Never announce before you execute. Not because you're hiding, but because you're strategic. The less they know, the more secure your moves. Second, withdraw emotionally. Don't react, don't defend, don't over-explain, keep them guessing. When people can't read you, they can't manipulate you. Third, build in isolation. Create without applause. Transform in silence. Real growth doesn't need an audience, it needs discipline. Fourth, play dumb when necessary. Don't reveal how much you know. Let them underestimate you. Sometimes it's better to be ignored until the moment you strike. Fifth, detach from validation. The less you crave being seen, the more powerful you become. Because the world's loudest people usually aren't the strongest, they're the most insecure. This is psychological warfare, the art of unreadability. When they can't predict your next move, they can't prepare for it. When they can't read your emotions, they can't use them against you. When they don't know what drives you, they'll never be able to stop you. The Stoic warrior is unreadable not because he hides, but because he's free from the need to be seen. His silence isn't passive, it's surgical. Let your victory be the first time they notice you. By the time they ask, how did you do it? By the time they scramble to copy your moves, it's already too late. You've outgrown their tactics. You've surpassed their games. You've become untouchable. And all of it was built in the dark. So stay low. Move smart. Say nothing. Let them underestimate you. Let them believe you've disappeared. Then rise like thunder from a storm they never saw coming. In a room full of egos, the most brilliant player is the one who doesn't look like a threat. He plays dumb. He praises others. He hides the dagger behind a smile. Because true dominance isn't about looking powerful, it's about being powerful without needing the room to know it. But be careful, visibility triggers insecurity. There's an ancient law of power, and it's brutal: never outshine the master. Robert Greene wrote about it in the 48 Laws of Power. You might think excellence is always rewarded, but the truth shines too brightly and you don't earn admiration, you awaken envy. Your boss, your partner, even your closest friends can feel threatened if your light casts a shadow over theirs. And when that happens, they don't praise you. They sabotage you. They don't say thank you. They whisper, "Who do you think you are?" The Stoic response: outsmart, don't outshine. The Stoic isn't here to steal the spotlight. He doesn't feed on applause, ego, or recognition. He studies people. He reads the emotional temperature of the room. He adapts. He plays small while preparing big. He acts humble while calculating everything. This isn't deception, it's psychological aikido. You let others feel superior all while sharpening your blade. Here's an example. Imagine you're in a team where one person hogs all the credit. They dominate meetings, interrupt others, treat silence as weakness. Most people would fight back or shrink away. But you compliment them. You let them feel important. You offer ideas subtly, allowing them to deliver them publicly. And then one day they stumble. And who's already trusted, respected, and ready to rise? You. Not because you demanded attention, but because you built quiet leverage while they were too busy performing. That's the rule of the quiet assassin. The smartest operators use a three-phase method. 1. Observe the power dynamics. Know who's insecure, know who's watching, know who needs to feel superior. 2. Strategically dim your light. Don't reveal all your skills at once. Don't correct someone unless it serves a purpose. Don't always speak first or the loudest. 3. Build behind the curtain. Cultivate relationships. Accumulate knowledge. Sharpen your edge quietly. And when the curtain finally rises, you're not just prepared, you're unstoppable. That's Stoicism in action. That's Stoicism Breath. Accumulate knowledge. Sharpen your edge. So when the stage finally clears and the noise dies down, you're the one who's ready. The truth is, most people fail at this principle because they crave recognition too early. They can't stand being underestimated. They react to every insult, to every slight. They feel the need to prove themselves right. But power doesn't work that way. Power is like heat. The more you reveal it, the easier it is to measure, to target, to attack. Stoic dominance plays a different game. The Stoic doesn't mind being overlooked. In fact, he prefers it. Because staying unnoticed keeps him out of the crosshairs until it's already too late for anyone to stop him. Let others shine. Let them chase the spotlight until it burns them. Let them burn with their need to be seen. While they chase applause, you chase understanding. While they perform, you position. And when they inevitably fall exhausted, exposed, or consumed by ego, you step in calm, ready, silent. And no one calls you lucky. They call you the only one left standing. But here's the greatest threat to this principle: your own ego. When someone underestimates you, your pride demands retaliation. When someone steals your idea, your pride demands credit. When someone talks louder, your pride wants to silence them. But the Stoic doesn't need to win the moment. He's playing for the war. Every time you resist the urge to prove yourself, you invest in your own quiet invincibility. This is psychological mastery. Don't be a threat, be the solution. When people feel threatened by you, they block you. But when people feel you make them stronger, they promote you. Don't be the competition, be the complement. Make your superiors feel safe. Make others feel valued. Not because you lack power, but because you understand how power actually works. That's how you slip through defenses. That's how you outsmart everyone without ever needing to outshine them. And here's the final reminder: you don't win by being seen. You win by being remembered. Applause is temporary, but influence is lasting. Don't be the loudest in the room, be the most strategic. Don't announce your value, let them discover it. By the time they realize it's already too late to compete, sit back, let them underestimate you, let them grab the mic, the credit, the glory. Because when the dust finally settles and the real players rise, you won't just be visible, you'll be unforgettable. You were never meant to play small. Not in your career, not in your relationships, not in your life. You were meant to dominate quietly, to control outcomes without noise, to win without ever needing to shout that you've won. The 7 Stoic rules you've just learned aren't tactics, they're a way of life. A code for those who are done explaining. A mindset for those who refuse to be manipulated. A weapon for those who are tired of losing to louder, weaker people. Remember this: the loudest one in the room is usually the weakest. The one who clings to power rarely has it, and the one who plays the long game always wins. So don't beg for respect. Command it through calmness, through strategy, through presence. Outsmart them, outlast them, and when the time is right, outplay them. And when they finally ask, "How did you do it?" just smile. Because the strongest never explain. They execute. If this message shook something awake inside you, if you're done playing nice in a world built on strategy, then this is your moment. Subscribe to Stoicism Breath. Because here we don't just talk about mindset, we forge it. Share this with someone who needs to stop reacting and start ruling. And tell me in the comments, which of the 7 Stoic rules are you mastering first? This isn't motivation, this is mental warfare, and now you're armed.